If you think you are a brain and you have a body, well, then you can have some leverage onto it, but not that much. This allows people to screw people over and think they would get away with it. They're not yet connected. They don't know yet that there's something greater at play, which is always on. This is where you can start to see your mind at play. Have you ever wondered why it seems to be so hard to get over yourself? But really, have you just thought like, why is this so hard, Lord? What am I doing wrong? Have you really thought about this? Or if you're in the business of helping others succeed, coach, consultant, expert, and some people, no matter what, you kind of have, even when you do it for them, sometimes they somehow seem to be able to figure out a way to mess it up. Why in the world is it so hard for people to get over themselves? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you a technique, maybe 3,000 to 5,000 year old technique, that will allow you to get over yourself easier and faster while removing the source of confusion, pain, and suffering that affects us all here in the human domain. Big promise, I know, for a YouTube video. I know. Just stick around. Some of the objections here will come today from that side, and some will come from that side. We'll get all this sorted together and the framing of the context of you coming back to this camera so you can get out there, kick butt, take names, grow your business, and create six-figure days for yourself from the stage. So, for some context, since around 2005-ish, 2005, 6, 7, I've mainly been hanging around with advanced people. I speak to speakers, I coach coaches, I train trainers, my friends, clients, partners, customers. We're dealing in that realm a lot of times. So I coach coaches that then go and coach the general population. So I've not been directly involved interfacing with the general population, if you will, for quite a while. Or I'm on stage as a musician, so I'm not as an entertainer. We don't help you solve your problems. We help you forget your problems. As a coach or an expert, we help solve your problems. It's very different and not the same price. So anyway, a few weeks back, I go to this event. There's a spiritual author, some sort of an event like meet and greet the author and ask questions and stuff. And I'm sitting there in the audience and I'm listening to the general population ask dead-end questions to this author. Like questions that even when you have the answer to it, you're still stuck in the maze. Questions that don't move the needle at all. Like just mental masturbation of a question that's just and I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, what in the world is going on here? And I'm kind of feeling through the audience, what are they not understanding here? What are they, where's the disconnect? Where does that come from? And I think I put my finger on it. They interchangeably use the word or the concept or the thing called consciousness, mind, and the brain. The confusion between what's consciousness, what is mind, and what is the brain has them spinning their circle, suffering, and making people around themselves suffer through a cycle of self-sabotage that they can't get away from. Then ask them to, when there's somebody there that can answer them the question, to ask a question that does nothing. So confusing the brain, consciousness, and the mind is like this. Like you calling customer service. You call Apple service or something, and you say, "Oh, my operating system is broken." They say, "What do you mean?" So think of it like that's like say you have the power cable. I have a power cable here. The power cable that goes from the wall, the power to the computer. That's like thinking that's the software, or thinking that the computer itself is the operating system, or thinking that the printer is the power. No. It's the confusion as to what is what internally is what causes the suffering. So that's one thing that was going on. I was also thinking, and I've seen behind the scenes of that industry, some people in the personal development field are so jaded that they sometimes even the experts and the guru secretly think behind closed door, without telling anybody really, but it's kind of a conversation as to like, you can't really help these people. The best you can do is entertain them. Now I'm an entertainer as well, and it's a different thing. But they've seen, as an expert, you got to feel out for them, is that they're not all crooks. Yes, there's quite a bit of few crooks in the thing, but they're not all crooks, bandits, and thieves. There are honest people in this business. But there's just been through the years seen so many people that cannot for the life of them get over themselves that they somehow, even them, start to believe, well, you can't really help these people. So at that level. So you end up with coaches that secretly think, well, it's just, do what you got to do. And then they kind of, you can't help them that. You can't want it more than themselves. For example, one of my clients, a few years back, told me he purchased a coaching program in the States. We were in Canada. So $9,000 US. 9,000 US, that was like 11,000 or 13,000 Canadian. And it said that he had coaching in that program. So he has what coaching has in mind, something around here. But what they had in mind for coaching was a 23-year-old dude with a cell phone. I don't have a cell phone. Let's say that this is a cell phone. A 23-year-old kid that replies, come on, man, you can do this. That's their idea of coaching. So even in the coaching world, so there's you as yourself. You need to get over yourself for anything you want to be doing for the rest of your life. And if you're in the business of helping others succeed, one of the first things you need to address is help them get over themselves in the area that you're working with them. So, to take the analogy of the computer, if the brain is the hardware, because the brain is a physical thing, the brain is an organ. Think like, like a liver or lungs or a spleen or something. The brain is an organ. The brain is a hardware. The mind, the conscious mind, can be thought of as the software of the computer, which you can change the software, things put on and off. The subconscious mind could be viewed as the operating system, the thing that gives you an error message. These are the parameters. You can do this and that, but not this and not that. If you go here, it's a beep, 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 or beep. This is a subconscious mind. And consciousness is none of the above. Consciousness is the power coming in that powers the whole thing. So if someone thinks that consciousness is somehow a fluke, a byproduct of the brain, that's why they suffer so much. Both the scientists that can't find it, but also the people who live that way and wonder why they can't get themselves to do the damn thing they want to be doing. So here are the 7 levels of self and how to get over yourself. Think of this as a fulcrum. So if you want to work on something, say you have like a fulcrum, then you have like a lever arm, and see, we put this here and you want to have some leverage on something. Well, you put your lever arm on the surface of something, then you can pull and you have an effect right here. So this is what you are, and this is where the effect is happening. So if somebody thinks, now, I am a body, am as in existence, like to be. Okay, a person thinks I am a body and I have a brain. That's what they think they are. Now I was raised like this, and I was raised like that, and then something happened here, and then something happened here. I know what this is like. You cannot get your body to do something if that's what you are, because if you are this body, some people, it's like the sense of self is like a body, and then they think up to the brain, to the thinking part. Well, you can't get your brain to do anything. You can somehow get your brain to do something, but not your body. So this is where procrastination comes in. This is where you can't stop yourself from eating the damn cookie. You can't stop yourself from doing the behavior. You can't stop yourself from getting over urges and feelings. Or like my classic joke around here, I don't get why people have such a hard time to quit smoking. I mean, that's so easy. I must have quit smoking like 50 times. That's so easy. So it's very hard to have an effect on your body and your behaviors and what you do if that's what you are. Because you don't have a fulcrum on it to apply leverage onto the thing. But you can kind of somehow control your brain. And then somehow things happen internally where we just, this certain age, at my 7 years old, you're not aware of a brain and a body and all that. You're just a body running around. And then most of us, we kind of grow to a phase where in our society, we're thought of as a brain and we have a body. So what are you? Oh, I'm your brain. So I'm intelligent. I'm smart. In school, I'm intelligent. I'm smart. I'm smart. Then you are a brain, and then it's as if your sense of self here somehow it's imaginarily you're like a small little person inside your head, and you're talking to your body. Come on now, time to wake up. Go and do the thing. Come on now, say this, say that. Now, remember, I used to be a chronic stutterer. I've spent my years inside my brain screaming at my body, what's wrong with you? Why won't you speak? No sound would come out of my face. Okay, so I know that very well. But if you think you are a brain and you have a body, well, then you can have some leverage onto it, but not that much, because the real power is not in the brain, which is an organ. That's like you screaming at your printer. That's like the USB cable from the computer shouting at the printer. Well, the printer's like, hey man, I'm printing what the software says. You're just a cable. So if you are a brain and you think you have a body, this is the kind of leverage you can have, which is not much. So at this level, when somebody says, love thy neighbor, it's like, what's that got to do with it? What's that going to do? Because this is finite. It's the sense of self stops here. I spent some time in Asia. And like here in America, if I come too close to you, like at one point, like you have a bubble, right? Like we have a sense of a bubble. So if I come, you're like, hey, my bubble, man, back off. In Asia, their sense of self stops at the skin. I mean, they bump into you on the street, no problem. Like, but that's me, that stops, and then that's you. There's no, like they're in the subway like this. There's a person, I think we have this in India, I'm not sure, but in Hong Kong, there's somebody whose job it is to push people in the subway. Subway comes, doors open, people cram as much as they can, shove in a few more. There's a guy with white gloves holding people in until the door closes, and it's like that. And that's their day to day. So there's no sense of a bubble. So when you hear a teaching like love thy neighbor, what's that going to do? That's also where, if you're a brain and you're a body, this is where people have a hard time connecting with the heart. They read books, they read stuff, okay? They're going to go, okay, let me read this spiritual stuff, or let me read this personal development book. It says, connect with your heart's desires. Like, okay, so imaginarily, it's like you're a small person inside your head, and then they're kind of looking down, and they're trying to kind of connect to the heart, and it's like, feels like a long distance to call there. Hello, operator? Can you put me in touch with the heart? No, I'm making jokes here, but this is not funny, okay? This disconnect is what allows people to kill others. This allows people to screw people over and think they would get away with it. They're not yet connected. They don't know yet that there's something greater at play, which is always on and is like the internet. These people are not aware that the internet exists in the physical world, so to speak. So we're making jokes here, but this is serious stuff. Okay, so something happens. For example, for me, anyway, we don't have time to go into my story here. So at one point, something happens and you become aware that, wait a minute, I'm not a body or a brain. I'm kind of a mind, or traditionally called in spirituality, the experiencer. I'm kind of the thing that experiences. So I am a mind, but I have a body. Now at some point you identify with, okay, well, I'm a mind thing. At first it's located in the head because that's where most of us are trained to live. But at one point the body becomes the body brain. Also called, we might not have time here, but it's called the triune brain system, where there's a lot of neurons in the heart and in the gut, not just in the head brain. So we have a head brain, a body brain, and a heart brain. At one point, these three things coagulate into the body-mind unit, the body-brain unit. I'm kind of a mind, and this mind, you realize at one point, wait a minute, it's bigger than just the head. It's like, could be called an aura, could be called a field, it's something like that encompasses the whole thing. When you are a mind, well, then you have the capacity, what they see in the books, to observe your body. You still can't observe your thoughts because you are a mind. So you're a victim of your thoughts. They're going by. So I feel good, I feel bad, whatever's going on, and you rage and you judge and you suffer and you plan and you scheme and you try to hurt and you try to get and all that. But at least you can see your brain going, and you can see, so you can feel and perceive your body-brain, like the interaction of the body and the brain and all that. And you can say, oh, this is where people start to say, like, my head wants this, but my heart wants something else. This is where people start to have a split of talking about the head and the heart, but my body wants it's like the body-brain wants this. The body-brain wants to sleep or eat, and then the heart-brain wants to be loved, and then the head-brain wants to dominate the world. Stuff. But here at that level, if you are a mind and you have a body/brain, then you can start to have leverage on your behaviors. This is where some reason starts to kick in, baby. You should wake up earlier and spend the first 90 minutes of your day on the most important project you have for the next 90 days of your life. Rinse and repeat for the rest of your life. Mind kicks in, but then you can't get your body to do it if you're here, because you are the body or you are the brain. At here, you can speak to, you have a liver and an arm and a fulcrum to start influencing your body-brain into doing what your mind knows is best for your long-term situation of your mind. Not just your body and your brain, which is where logic kicks in, which some of the knowledge of the higher spheres here are start to bleed in, because mind can be connected to greater, like mind could be called like the local area network, like the LAN network, before you move on to the internet, connected to everything. Anyway, where were we? At one point, you are a mind and you have a body, brain. At one point, you're still a mind, but there's a big level up here where you are a mind. And this is freaky. You realize, oh, wait a minute, I have a soul or a spirit or a thing. This is where people start to connect. Oh, it's like divine in nature. So this is kind of where the Celestine prophecies live, and most of the popular, in French we say psychopop, like the popular beginner intermediate spiritual books and concepts and stuff. This is where that kind of lives. Oh, I'm a mind. I have a body and a brain, but I also have this thing, which is like a spirit, soul thing. And this is where people argue about the name of stuff. Oh, this is the source, or they have different names for God and stuff, and they're arguing about stuff. Now, just as a separate thing here, your high school science professor probably argues with your high school theology professor. Like, if religion and science at the high school level, they agree. But when you get to the top, like the big boys in the spirituality and the big boys in science, like the freaks, like one goes to the cell, to the atom, to the subatomic particles, to the pure energy, and everything is connected throughout all time and space, and time is an illusion, and all that. These guys that do this all day, and if you read the most advanced spiritual stuff from thousands of years ago, these guys are saying the same thing with different language. So at the highest levels, these guys are saying the same thing with different language. But the high school teacher and your high school level science and religion are arguing at that level, somewhere between here and there. Now, for me, this switch happened around 2005-ish. This is when it started to happen. And from 2005 till today, it's an ongoing process of going like this with flashes of insight, freaking out, revelations, and then 2-3 years of stabilization, and then ringing again. But for the first, when this started happening, every 2-3 weeks, for 2-3 years, my whole sense of self was destroyed internally. Now, I don't wish this upon anyone who does not want it. But for anyone who's spiritually active on the path, that want to experience, deeper levels of self or truth, or want to grow in that sense, this sense of self has to die to to have this one, and this one has to die to go to this one, and this one has to die to go to this one. But it's not real death. It's just death of an imaginary sense of self, which is smaller than what you really are. Think of it like throttles on a go-kart machine. Let's come to this camera because these guys need to hear this too. You know, like when you go to go-karts. You go on a go-kart, and if the go-kart would be left untouched, it would go like really, really fast, go-kart. Okay, but then they throttle it. So when the pros are using the go-kart, they're full on. When adults are using it, they throttle it. So you got, rather than you get okay. Then when the kids are using it, then they throttle it some more. You get and then when, you know, some other group of people come in there, like younger than kids or something, they just go throttle like pit, 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 pit. So the same sense of self is diluted. Think of like power. You know, like if you have like a device here, like this, like, you know, like 9 volts or 12 volts, or with a small cable in the wall, but this is like 120 volts. But this comes to like a, I don't know how you call it in English. In French, we call it like converters, power converters on big cables. You got these things outside which convert big power to small power to small power to small power. It's just the same thing. It's the same self all the way down, just kind of throttled down in a smaller and smaller sense of self. I forget the name of the guy, but there was a guy, like a small reel on Facebook, like a 60-second thing. The guy was like, okay, so God is the source. He had like a glass of water, and he put inside the other glass, and you are the resource, see? So God is in that thing. So whatever's the source itself is just throttled down at the identity level all the way down. Anyway, just getting long, and then the sun is out, so the light is getting bad. Let's keep on. If you guys are good to keep going, by the way, I was planning on teaching this in my 70s. The first video and the first teaching of this type of identity, self, and spiritual stuff, I was planning on teaching this in my 70s, and I'm 47, 48 now, whatever. So we're a bit in advance. If you like that kind of stuff, we can go for a few years. Okay, so at one point, you are a mind and you have this thing, and then this is where the search comes in. You can have an effect. If you are a mind and you have a body, you can have an effect on this. If you are a mind and you have a soul, well, this pulls you to something else where you go, oh snap, I'm not a mind. I'm a soul. And I have a mind. Oh my God. This shift is where where people start to remember or believe in reincarnation. This is where people that die and come back talk about that type of stuff. Sadly, it's been removed. I don't know the dates. I'm not a Bible scholar or a professional, but I've read some articles and people that say that all mentions of reincarnation have been removed in certain treaties in the old days from the Bible. That's a shame. That's such a shame. But at that level here, you are a soul and you have a mind. So now your fulcrum of your identity, now you, like people say, how do I control my thoughts? How can I become bigger than my emotions? Well, I want to do this, but then my emotions in the way and I sabotage my business and yada. Well, when you get to the level that you are a soul and you have a mind, all this is a fulcrum. Your mind, this is where you can start to see your mind at play. And when you say mind, we're talking about the triune brain system. So you can say, you see all the brains and the body. How the energy moves. When you walk into a room, you can observe your mind observing. This is where you can become an observer of your thoughts. This is where you have control over the damn thing. And control is a big word. It's more like encompassing and loving and transforming through presence. It's like you observe the mind unraveling itself. This is where people, it's very hard to forgive here. Like I had a guy try to slit my throat with a knife. I have a scar here. As a body, you can't forgive that guy. You want to kill the bastard. You can't do it. As a mind, you can kind of reason with yourself. But there's anger and bitterness and rage and all sorts of emotions that are hard to deal with. When you get to here, well then, you can observe your mind process the forgiveness of the thing. So these are all different levels of self which allow you greater ease, speed, grace and facilitation of getting over yourself. Now, this is in the context of, I teach speaking. So ex-chronic stutterer, inventing new speaking systems, yada, yada, 6-figure days and all that stuff. So it's getting over yourself so you can get on stage and grow your business. But I don't know, if I'd be teaching golf or something, let's be get over yourself, as in, I'm a bad golfer. You mean your body's a bad golfer? You mean your body has not been okay, that's okay. So now, sometimes just clarifying the words that they are. I'm angry is different than my mind races. See, my mind races. Somebody says that, it's like, if you say my mind races, you can't be the mind. Let's do this quick, okay? Let me just give you the technique right now so you can understand this, because I know this can get confusing. This is like the biggest subject in the world, and we're trying to cram this into a 30-minute video. So, the technique is called neti neti. You can Google it, N-E-T-I-N-E-T-I, neti neti. It's a classic Vedic technique. It's called not this, not that. So, you'll just look at the desk here in front of you, just look at a pen or anything. Just look at something in front of you. And by default, if you see this, it can't be you. When you're in a subway in Hong Kong, and you're like this, I'm me, this person next to me is not me, right? Easy. Okay, so by default, if I see something, it's not me. If you hear a sound, well, it's not coming from you, it's definitely something else. Okay, get this. If you feel something, it's not you. Easy, external world. Now, where the technique gets good is when you close your eyes. By the way, in this level here, when you close your eyes, you kind of see just black or blankness or whatever. In certain levels here, if you close your eyes, you kind of see like there's a flashlight in your forehead. This is the kind of stuff that happens here. So you close your eyes and you hear a thought. Now, if somebody thinks they are a brain, they think the thought they just heard is their thought. No, it's not. When you get that if you see a pen, you can't be the pen, get it. Because the eyes are doing the observing. When you close your eyes and you become aware internally, if there's a feeling or a thought or something that passes by, this can't be you, because what you are is the thing that is aware of what just happened. Oh my God. You mean I'm the internal observer and not the doer? Like Krishna says, don't worry about it. I'm the one acting through you. I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the thing that thinks the thoughts. Now there are many, I'm oversimplifying here because there's many different, there's the mind, there's the intellect and all that. But as soon as you detect something inside of you, if it's good or bad, you can't be it, it can't be you. So the way you get leverage over internal states that can be terrifying is you realize you are the camera observing all that. Good feeling, whoa, I'm so happy. So people identify with the I'm so happy are at that level here. This is the mind experiencing. Or even sometimes that level. Now we're getting close. When we get to the neti neti, we're getting close to here, which is eternal consciousness. Eternal consciousness. Somehow here you are a soul, and you have some kind of a connection to eternal consciousness, but you like what is that thing? You're not really sure what it is. Same thing as when you are a mind, some sort of a connection to a soul. So at that level here, this is where the neti neti starts to kick in, where you can bump into that thing. Where that bumps into I am consciousness itself. Oh my God. I'm not the printer. I'm not the USB cable. I'm not the computer, the hardware, the software. Oh my God. I am the power that powers the computer. I am the light that powers the computer. Oh, snap. So this is where you start to have, now your fulcrum goes like this, to the level of the soul itself, which is the thing that reincarnates, apparently. So now you can start to see patterns. At this level, you do a PDF thing in your coaching call to like the patterns of the past week. What were the patterns here? This is like the patterns of, This is the story of my life. This is like multi-generation patterns, lifetime chunks of lifetimes of patterns, like whole other level. The neti technique allows you to, when there's a good thing, remember that this too shall pass. When there's a bad thing, this too shall pass. You are the unfazed observer internally that sees things. Now, at that level, it's hard to be functional in business. So business happens kind of around here. So you cannot use this language and this thought in business transactions. But when you have this as a leverage, it makes it so that everything you do and the way you communicate, the way you show up, the energy you have to do and produce and be and manifest and encounter and network and do a bunch of stuff and kind of be in tune with the forces of life and synchronicities is unparalleled. This is where intuition starts to kick in. This is where déjà vu starts to kick in. Hunches start to kick in, where you can start to test these things. I heard David Hawkins say it beautifully. He says, when this kicks in, you start to have intuitions and hunches, which you then test with logic. So you don't go flying blind because you have an idea or whatever, but now these ideas come to you when you can start to test them with logic to start implementing. Okay? So just quickly to wrap this up, at this level here, when you are eternal consciousness, somehow individualized as a soul. How's that work? You know these lamps? It's like there's like a base, a common base. There's one light, but then there's like filaments. It looks like, like fiber optic or something, like 100 filaments. Well, this filament is different than that one. I'm not an idiot, okay? We know this one is different than that one. This from the same light. So this is different than that. And sometimes even because there are different colors, but there's one light, but they're all different colors. All these filaments are different. But if you go to the source of all these filaments, there's one light. So somehow, at this level, when you identify as I am, not a body, not a brain, not a mind, not a soul, I am kind of like consciousness itself, somehow individualized as a soul. And this thing is kind of a throttle that throttles the power down so you can kind of have a sense of self, which is what enlightenment is. Traditionally, enlightenment is when you go from this to being, when someone says, I'm eternal consciousness and the same light that shines through all souls. This is experienced as the death of the individual person, where people that have died and come back, or spiritual masters say that this going from body to body, as a soul going from body to body, is like a non-event. I even have a book, like it's called Dying with Confidence, like Tibetan Buddhism, So they have these whole systems. So the way a body changes clothes, the soul changes body. So these deaths that we experience as bodies are non-events. Just anybody that has had out-of-body experiences say, well, I was there. So the sense of self, so the mind, the sense of self, all the experiencing of the stuff, like the sense of self itself, it was there, but there was a body down below on the operating table when the accident. It was like, this wasn't me. This was something else. This was a body, which is not me, and I was here. This is the thing. It happened to my dad, actually. These people that died and come back. I also have a client who died and came back 3 times. For him, dying is like a regular Tuesday. So this is the thing. So here you are, consciousness itself, somehow individualized as one soul, in the same principle as that, identifying with one of the strands of those lamps. Like there's a base. So you're identifying as one of those strands. And then the next level is like, oh snap, I'm the light inside all the strands. So, in terms of coaching, depending on what level you're coaching people, don't be a crackerjack box coach. Crackerjack box coach, remember? These guys, $27 life coach certification over the weekend, and then you sell a $10,000 coaching package on Monday morning with a ClickFunnels trials because you're worth it. Huh? You worked on your self-worth. You had a questionnaire of self-worth and you moved all that, and then you're going to screw people over. Don't screw people over. If you notice that somebody is on the cusp of moving to another level of leverage on themselves, you can help them level through up the what you are versus what you have leverage over. And don't talk about that stuff to these guys, because these guys think you're crazy. This guy at best thinks that this guy has brain damage. And this guy is just, this guy, okay, well, I don't know about this guy, I can't talk about it, but this guy here secretly intends and wishes the best for everyone here. So that's kind of the game. Don't hire coaches, 23-year-old coaches, to scale your business that reply, come on, man, you can do this. If your people are at that level, hire coaches here. If your people are at that level, hire people there. You want people that have that emotional bandwidth to support others through what they're going through. So if they're afraid of fear, you got to have someone that transcended fear, for example. So please just don't be a crackerjack box coach. The industry has had enough. It can't stand it anymore. If you liked any of this, I have a free technique for you. Inside the academy, click below somewhere. There's a free trial, 14-day free trial. This will help you level up and get over anything you want for the rest of your life. Yes, after this, we go into speaking. Transformational Speaking Academy, the whole 9 yards. Day 1, go through video, coaching, get all your questions answered, kick butt, take names. But the principle of getting over yourself, I mean, you can use it to become a better golfer, a better speaker, or a better whatever. It's a free 14-day trial. Go in the thing and find a technique that's called Who Do You Think You Are? Get it? Who do you think you are? And this will help you release emotions, release what's in the way of you getting out there, kicking butt, and taking names. I've been Sly with nextlevelpublicspeaking.com. If you like this video, share, subscribe, and thumbs up. If you didn't like it, and you want to make sure nobody knows about it ever again, just don't share it and click the thumbs down button twice. That way, you'll make sure that YouTube knows this was horrible and we won't talk about it again. Thanks for watching. Godspeed.